Hello, everybody, and welcome to my new limited interview series. I'm your host, Keanu Cordero, director, writer, and filmmaker here in San Antonio. Today, I'd like to introduce to you David Carbajal. If you don't know David has starred in projects such as Motel Chronicles, The Big Red, White, and Blue, and most recently, The Hard Good Night. I would also like to introduce to you Presley Weber. If you don't know Presley, she's been in projects such as Build a Girl, Adult Swim's We Are the Future, and most recently, The Legend of El Chupacabra. David and Presley, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
I would like to start off this interview by asking you guys your passion for acting. David, we'll start with you. When was the first moment you knew you wanted to do this? When it really when the acting bug really bit you?
I was a child, and my mom was watching Grease. My mom was watching Grease. At the time, she was single, just me and my older brother. And I saw John Travolta just pop up on the bleachers, and he's singing and he's smiling.
Yeah.
And there was just something there that just connected, and I was like, I need to do that. And then everything ever since has been doing what that was there and pursuing it, and here I am. I'm here with you guys. It's nice.
And from what I understand, you self-produce and self-write all your stuff, right?
I do. I do that because I was real determined. I was very determined to do that because I want to do what I like. And it's really hard to find projects that you can find yourself in, or projects that you read, you watch, you're influenced by. So the best thing that I thought was, well, I'm gonna write it and I'll put it together, and I'll put myself in that pocket there, so that way I could, see what I saw back when I was 4 years old. And so far, I've had some good luck doing that, thankfully.
Yeah, I think so. You've been killing it recently. What about you, Presley? Tell us about that moment.
Yeah, so similarly to David, I've kind of always wanted to do this my whole life. There was never really a specific moment that I decided I wanted to be an actor. It always just kind of felt ingrained in like my identity. And I think I've kind of been acting and performing my whole life. And I always knew from a very young age that this is what I wanted to do. This was my path. And I started doing musical theater and a lot of straight plays growing up, and I fell in love with film acting when I was 13. As a teenager, I would spend my summers out in Los Angeles at an intensive youth actors program where I trained and I learned about the industry, and I was in some of my first feature films that were independent films, but kind of got that taste of what it's like to act on screen. And then when I was 18, I decided after high school to move to LA to pursue acting as a career, and have continued in that pursuit ever since. And I've been fortunate enough to be in 5 feature films this past year and 2 short films, including Smile Now, Cry Later and Build a Girl, another short film that I co-wrote. And I think, it sounds corny, but acting is my first love, and it's been the biggest passion throughout my entire life. And while this industry is difficult and non-linear, nothing has dissuaded me from continuing this pursuit in my craft.
I love that. So, I would like to propose to you guys an interesting counter question. Instead of asking you guys about when you found your passion, was there ever a moment that you felt, oh shit, this is not working out? And how do you shake that feeling? I know as creatives we can sort of feel like that more often than not. And so I want you guys to tell the audience, how do you deal with something like that? David, we'll start with you.
So, I didn't necessarily ever have an oh shit moment. Like, I'm not going to do this, because just like you, I'm not going to not do it.
Yeah.
There's that song, That's Life, from Frank Sinatra. How's it go? It's, I tried quitting, baby, but my heart ain't going to buy it. It's not going to buy it.
Yeah.
So what I've done is just raise my standard. I had to create my own standard and then raise it. Every time I do something, every time I think of something, want to accomplish something, write down the goal, create the standard, versus living off the influences and the standard that somebody else was creating, that they create out west in California, in those studios. I was like, I can't put myself there yet. I'm so far away. I've got there's a different social structure that I'm working with here in San Antonio.
Yeah.
So I've got to create my own standard. What's going to keep me enthusiastic about continuing to work? What's going to keep me motivated? And that all starts within me. So just creating a standard. What do you like? What do you want to do? What do you want to see? Who do you want to work with? That's kind of a big one too. Who do you want to work with? So
That's good.
That's been my big thing, is how do I stay honest to the craft and not give up, not be unmotivated, I would say.
I like that. What about you, Presley?
Yeah, so like I said, when I was after high school, I was living in LA, and I lived there for about a little, like under a year and a half, so just long enough to kind of get my bearings. And then the pandemic hit, and all productions in LA indefinitely halted. And you know, the already difficult pursuit of being a working actor was made even more complicated. And I know that this is not a unique experience. I know a lot of creatives experienced this during the pandemic. And being in this performative and creative kind of career path was made even more bleak. I know a lot of us felt panicked. A lot of my fellow actors felt, you know, when will I work again? I mean, I moved back home. I moved back to Texas, and it ended up being kind of the best thing for my career and for my mental health. Not only was I, you know, saving money, of course, but I was closer to my family. And I think the lack of opportunities and kind of the uncertainty that came along with the early days of the pandemic really made me decide that I didn't want to wait for opportunities to come to me. Instead, I wanted to create my own. So in early 2021, I started a YouTube channel called Presley's World, which fortunately, to my surprise, has reached a lot of success. It has over 21,000 subscribers and 5 million cumulative views. And then from that channel, I started another channel, Presley ASMR, which also just reached 20,000 subscribers in only a few months. And I'm very grateful to have had the success that YouTube has given me. I think, especially because both of my channels are like performance-based, I can't help but feel like it is the best day job that I can have as an actor in conjunction with acting, because, you know, not only does it kind of scratch my performance itch on a daily basis, I get to act for a living, but it also gives me a chance to kind of keep my skills sharp. I'm in front of a camera pretty much every day. And it also, because it's not a normal 9 to 5, it gives me the flexibility to still take on acting jobs. And I think that also having a little more creative control in doing these YouTube channels wanted me to try out different things inside of film. And so it inspired me to co-write that short film that I did earlier this year, Build a Girl. And I would just say to any artist that's experiencing kind of feeling like the opportunities are not there for you, just from my own experience, I've learned to make your own opportunities. If the door is not there or the door is closed, make your own door, you know? Don't get complacent, because you can still pursue your craft and just sort of take your own approach to it.
I like that.
The pandemic's sorry to interrupt.
No,
the pandemic's a good example of that, because I remember there's a lot of naysayers in filmmaking. There's a lot of the ones who, you gotta do it this way. You gotta do it this way because that's how they're doing it out west.
Yeah.
I said, fuck all that.
Yeah.
Fuck all that, because in the pandemic, we made 4 really good feature films and not feature films, 4 films, 2 shorts, 2 features, and 2 of those went to the Austin Film Festival. They're still in that still in that circuit, and a lot of that's because there's the pandemic and there's this stuff going on saying you can't do it, but there's no real reason why you can't. We're safe, wearing masks, doing what we're supposed to do, but you see, you got this objection here. You just got to put it aside and you know, put your head down and keep working.
No, exactly. That's another thing I found too with like being in Texas after like moving out of LA. It was like I was getting more work in film in Texas than I was in California, and all of my friends that still lived there, I would talk to them and they said, oh, I haven't gotten any in-person auditions in like basically 2 years, and they haven't, you know, worked as much. And I think Texans, we have kind of this this Texas way, and it's a little bit of the Wild West out here in a good way, and I think that has allowed me to like continue working, and if I had stayed in California, I probably would not have had the same kind of opportunities.
If it wasn't for the pandemic, would you have a YouTube channel?
No, definitely not.
It's
yeah,
a big one. It's a big one.
That's good.
Yeah, trying to make positive out of negatives, you know?
Well, make your own way in the industry too.
Yeah.
Make your own way in the industry.
Yeah, because I think also what I was going to say to your point of like being in Texas and trying to kind of, you know, not necessarily have to follow the Hollywood path. I think anymore post-pandemic, and I'm sure you're finding this too as a director, that not everything is so you have to be in New York or you have to be in LA, and especially with the digital age and YouTube and TikTok becoming like mainstream media, it's like you can be anywhere in the world and you can create film, you can make, you know, you can tell stories. It doesn't, you know, I think we're kind of getting away from that a little bit.
I like to author my own stuff because I produce it too and everything, because I get real mad when somebody says you got to do it the New York way, the California way, you got to do it that way. It gets me real mad because I've never wanted to be anybody else.
Yeah.
I've been inspired by people, motivated by people, but I've never wanted to be that one guy. So I want David's path. You know, what's David's path? What are the side journeys along it? You know, so
that's the, you know, the beauty of being an artist is like no one is like you. You bring something, you know, unique that no one else can.
And you follow somebody else's path, you're just gonna be derivative to them. And if you're derivative to somebody else's work, you kind of ruin the uniqueness of acting, filmmaking, music, stuff like that. So it's I'm real big with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Look at you guys. All right. That's an interesting segue. So I want the audience to know, sometimes as an audience, they don't always get to see the process of an actor. And that is by far my most favorite process of filmmaking, is working with different actors and seeing how they can kind of get into character, what process that is. And so I basically want to get into the nitty-gritty, starting with Presley. How do you prepare for a role? Take us into your process.
Yeah, I think how I prepare for a role, it all is kind of the same approach, but every role requires something unique. And just primarily, my approach is always rooted in just using my imagination, plain and simple. I think your imagination is the biggest tool and asset that you have as an actor, and it's limitless. So for me, I try to, when I'm creating a character, using my imagination to try to get really specific with that character and with that character within the story. So, you know, using the context with the text and letting that kind of guide my imagination. For me, I don't like to, I've just kind of learned, I prefer not to draw on my own like personal experiences to elicit certain emotions, just because I feel like, one, it can be unhealthy to constantly have to like dredge up your own trauma for like your art.
That makes sense.
And I think, and it can just be dangerous. And also primarily, I feel like it takes you out of the story, because how can I like tell a story and be someone else and be a character and experience that story while I'm in reality too, while I'm like thinking about something that happened to me and something that made me sad as Presley in my reality one. Like, it just takes you out of the story, and I'm not able to like be the character if I'm thinking about, you know, the sad time that my dog died in order to make me cry in a scene about a couple fighting that has nothing to do with the dog. You know what I mean? I think, so for me, that's just using my imagination to build that world, to build out what it feels like the kind of sadness and the kind of relationship and that I have with different characters in the script. That kind of, I think your imagination is just endless.
That's not the most unorthodox way of approaching it either, because actors such as like Joaquin Phoenix and Aaron Paul, I'm sure you're familiar with those two. They have the same approach. They don't like to incorporate things that they've been through to sort of achieve a certain emotion, and I think that makes them an entirely different sort of caliber of an actor. Like, you know, imagine getting a performance like Joker from Joaquin Phoenix, and you know, he tells you, hey, you know, I was just acting. I didn't really pull from that. That's pretty impressive. So. And
I think someone, especially like Joaquin Phoenix, you know, famously, like his brother passed away, and like if he was using something like that kind of trauma to create a performance, it could be another, you know, Heath Ledger situation where it could drive you truly insane, and that's can be unhealthy. So knowing your own self and knowing what approach is best for you. Some people love to, you know, use their own emotional experiences to lend itself to their performance, and that's fine if that works for them, but it's just not my approach. But that's like, you know, I'm not one to judge how another actor's process, because I understand that everyone is completely different, and what works for me might not work for David, you know?
That's the beauty of acting.
It's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
What about you? What's your process? I've seen, see, this is why I want to have you tell the audience, because I've seen firsthand both of you guys' process. So I want you to explain your process as well.
I'm remembering now what I was doing. I was just jumping around, doing push-ups and squats.
And yeah, the first time
Squats.
first time we rehearsed, you were right here in this kitchen, and I remember you started singing. and her and I looked at, and sorry, I'm looking off to my girlfriend off camera. We were looking at each other, and we were like, and I was like, just just let him do it. He's in his world.
For me, it's too. So that's like something to make me loose.
Yeah.
So one of my biggest things is just
That's good,
I
yeah.
get so tight sometimes.
Yeah.
I gotta loosen up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just
That's
personally.
very smart, yeah.
Yeah, so just to be loose on camera, loose as the character. Start breaking at the wall that I create for myself.
Yes.
But I've got two different processes, I would say. If I have time to create the character, we've got weeks, months to do a role like this one.
Mm-hmm.
Smile No Cry Later, we had a month or two.
Yeah, we had a lot of time.
We had a lot of time.
Yeah.
I get to start journaling, and I'll start thinking of, create a conscious for this person, for this guy. What's his dilemma? What does he like to do? What does he like to smell? Create those thoughts, create that dialogue within myself, and then I'll start to kind of understand who this guy is or who he's not as well. But then we like run and gun filming too. So I mean, sometimes we got a film to do in 2 weeks or
Right.
1 week. So
Or the words, the script changes. You
I love
prepared for a
improvising
whole
too. Yeah.
scene. Yeah, you
And I'm
prepare a
notorious
scene.
for that. Yeah,
We
just
improvised
change
a
it.
lot on Smile. I think we changed like 3 scenes, but they all came out fantastic. I remember like coming up with
that.
new lines of dialogue day of, or maybe a couple days before we shot, and having you guys sort of go back and forth on rehearsal and seeing you guys learn how to make it look like two humans on screen was impressive. To say
I
the
think
least.
that's like the beauty of like having an actor that like I feel like we have very good creative chemistry, like working with you on this.
Yeah.
Like it made sense, and I think we got to a point where we were so on the same page about who these people were and who these people were to each other that whenever we would be talking about a scene, I would love when you'd be like, well, but does it make sense for him to say this or what and then we'd be like, you know what? And Keanu, you'd be like, yeah. And I love that you gave us that
gave us a lot of
trust.
freedom,
Yeah. And
that was
that
awesome.
kind of, you trusted us with these characters to like, to expand or breathe life into like certain little areas on
Creating
the
depth.
page. Yeah.
No secret. I've never trusted anybody. And I'm serious, because like usually I'm just like, just say what's on the page, please. But with you two, like I realized it was after we shot Shock Jockey. After that, I quickly realized that you two had the sort of a mutual understanding of how to correctly create that sort of human element to those characters. And when we were shooting those dialogue scenes back and forth right here in the living room, I realized very quickly, like, okay, yeah, these guys, they know what they're doing and they know how to craft.
Shock Jockey is a good example because with the Running Gun, that's a film where it's like we come up with it on a Tuesday and we're filming it on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And so we tell you on a Friday,
Yeah.
hey, could you
I
show
was
up to
like,
this? There's
sure.
no script. I'm like, hey, there's no script. I was using it because I was like, I want to work with Presley for this film. So I was like, you know what? Let me put Presley in Shock Jockey because I know Keanu's going to shoot it, and then we could improvise and work together, and then he'll see that
He'll
we can
see
work.
our chemistry.
That was my thought process there. I was like,
Genius.
oh, this is the
Thanks
film
for that
here.
little.
Yeah, so
It works because
Yeah.
like at the time, like I was auditioning several people for the role of Lila, and it was one person that was insanely close to getting it. After I saw you two work together, as I knew that if you guys could work as like non-lovers, just two friends in relation to the story, that you guys could work as two characters that were in love, right? And so when I saw that and your ability to sort of improvise with each other, I was like, yeah, this is the duo. This is it.
I think it helps that, we'd already worked together before on The Hard Good Night, and even though it was just one scene, I can always tell, and this is like a compliment to you and a testament to you as an actor, but, when I'm on set with people that I'm working with, that I can always, I've been, acting and long enough to kind of have a sense of after a scene if the person that I'm working with gets it. And I got that with
that's what I was saying.
you, and it was like and sometimes it's just, even if someone's a great actor, sometimes you just don't your chemistry is just not there. There's just not that flow. But I felt like it was always easy with you. Like when we were rehearsing and when the cameras were on, it didn't feel forced. It didn't feel like, oh, I really have to like hone in and like, and I try like act my ass off to make this work. You know what I mean? It felt very organic.
Yeah, we hated each other in that role too, so it was a
Right.
polar opposite. It was like complete polar opposite.
Right.
So I was like, that's the same thing. I was like, okay. On my end, it's
On the Hard Good Night.
the Hard Good Night. Yeah, the Hard
That's
Good
funny.
Night. Her character hates me, and
Really?
Yeah.
But we're
That's awesome.
like a testament to everything she's done up to this point. I haven't gone to a lot of these I haven't gone to a lot of acting schools. I've done some classes, and a lot of my training is just, what did I do on this film? Let me not do that.
From experience.
Yeah, let me never fucking do that again, because that didn't work. Let me not show-
Baptism by fire.
Yeah,
just
baptism
learning
by
as you
fire.
do,
So working with you, I was like, oh man, she gets it. She could carry me through a film. She could carry me. So when I was reading this script, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna need some help here.
Yeah.
like I worked with Presty just recently. I'm like, I'm gonna need her to carry me through some
Man,
of these
I'm
scenes.
honored. Honored to have helped
So-
carry you. You didn't need much carrying, in my opinion.
Because I don't know how to dance, so I'm like, you're gonna have to lead the team. Some of these scenes, you gotta
It's like, I got you.
You gotta go.
That's a
No,
good
you didn't need
segue.
me.
That's a good segue into my next question. But this one's for you, Presley, since I've heard your thoughts on this plenty of times. But when we did the movie, compared to the final cut I showed you, was what did you think? Was it completely different than what you had expected?
You know, I like, first of all, I'm just very, very happy with how the film has turned out. You know, I think that it's I think it is a work of art, and I'm happy to have been a part of it. And I think, you know, just being on any film, the first time that you read the script, you know, all the way through versus the final draft, you know, it's so different from like what you're envisioning in your mind when you're reading it. And you know, I think it is really neat to see how like text translates on screen and certain changes that get made throughout the production process. I think for me, really with this film, what kind of like surprised me is obviously all of my scenes were with David. So I didn't ever work with any of the other actors on the film and any of the other supporting characters. Lila, my character, did not interact with them.
That's right.
So I didn't know what was going on. And even the scenes that you had by yourself, I saw some of those and we talked about them when we would meet up and shoot. But the other scenes with the other actors, I had no idea. And I was, after watching the whole thing, just, I was just blown away like by their performances, and really like their performances in conjunction with like the editing and special effects and the cinematography along with it. Like just seeing it all, it made it feel whole, you know? Because when we're doing our scenes, you know, my character Lila doesn't know what's going on in your life. So when we're shooting our scenes, I'm not thinking as my character, I'm not thinking, oh, that scene that he's doing next, you know, because I don't know. Like Lila doesn't know.
I remember you telling me that too, that you're like, I just primarily read your stuff.
Yeah, for this role, for this story, I didn't even really think about the other scenes that I wasn't in because my storyline, like my character doesn't know about those other scenes. So why should I you know, it doesn't affect my performance. If it did, then I would, you know, do more research and think about those scenes a little more. So yeah, having kind of all of the pieces of the puzzle coming together and seeing, you know, my scenes and the scenes we did with everyone else's and with your solo shots, just it really just felt like, okay, yeah, this is the whole story, you know? So
That's
it was
what-
really beautiful.
I was really excited to show it to. I think David, you had seen.
I was basically a part of the whole process.
Yeah, but I was really excited to show it to you and Kaylin. Like Gabriel, the guy who plays your father, he hasn't seen the movie at all yet.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, like when I showed it to you guys, and you guys came over to the house. I was nervous, but I also was like, well, this is it. This is sort of like, because yeah, you're right. You had no idea what the movie was really about, other than the scene. So.
And we're gonna see it eventually, you know.
Yeah.
So no reason to be nervous.
Yeah, I know that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. I always get nervous. Like,
Yeah,
like my own
I get
actors are
it.
gonna think my movie's shit.
I wanted to do it because of I loved the implications of the character. They were all personal.
Yeah.
They were all personal implications. And the sandbox that I always play in is, I mean, it's money in a briefcase and a damsel in distress. So when I read the implications, I'm like, this is personal.
It's different, yeah.
It's different. Like it's truth. It's honesty you could lay down in it. Because I wanted to. Seeing what you were putting together, I was like, I have to be a part of this. I know you wanted me for another role.
Yeah.
You don't even know. I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I was like, I'm auditioning for this one.
You're like, I want the meat.
Yeah, I was like, putting my pride aside, I'm gonna fucking audition.
Yeah.
I want to do that role because it wasn't high stakes and loaded guns. It was just the guy going through it. And I was like, I need to do that. I need to do some reality like that. So it was my dose of being able to put that on film, and being able to test myself as an actor too. That kind of helped tell your story. Because if not, I'm gonna let you down. I'm gonna let the cast down. And so it was a challenge for me. It was it was one of those moments where I'm like, I gotta raise the standard.
Yeah.
So doing this for me was gotta raise the standard. So it was fun. I love the way it came out. I loved it.
Yeah, and I think just seeing there were the scenes that we had together. There are little bits and pieces where you had a phone call at the end of one of our scenes to your brother, and my character doesn't know what's going on. So in my mind, my actor mind, I was like, well, I'm not going to concern myself with that because I don't want to know when my character doesn't know. It doesn't matter. So and then actually seeing that kind of come full circle and seeing what that phone call was and sort of the behind all the things that your character was going through in our scenes really just felt like awesome to just see that whole thing.
It was fun.
What
was cool with acting with you on that is when he told me you're like I'm primarily focusing on our scenes, I was like, well, that helps me out because my character's really reserved. So I'm like, I don't want you to know what I'm going through. So when I'm in the scenes, I know what's going on. But I don't want to tell you. So in my mind, I have this weight of everything we've shot, everything we've done.
I think you can
look at you and
you can definitely feel that in the presence of Joey. That was one of the things that that you sort of see throughout the lens of Joey. I had one of my Discord friends watch it. Like, we don't know each other in real life, but we play video games with each other pretty avidly, and I was like, I want to get his opinion on this movie and just get a non-biased opinion on what someone may think about it. And they said the exact same thing. Like, you can really tell, like, Joey as a man is incredibly reserved. Like, you can tell he's wanting to say something but just doesn't really know how all the time.
Keanu, I gotta go home. We gotta wrap up, Betty. I was saying in my head, Keanu, we gotta go. You said Keanu.
Well, I think that's like a testament to your performance is like, you can tell, especially in the scenes that we filmed together, my character, like Lila, she knows that like you're going through something. You're clearly like, you're not okay, but they don't have the relationship yet where she is gonna pry, and they're just kind of earning each other's trust like that. And so I knew, okay, Joey's going through something. I don't know what it is, but you can tell and you can feel it. And it's not because you're crying and you're like, rolling on the floor upset and you're cursing. It's like, it's subtle and it's just how humans are, You're trying to
You were so nurturing through the whole process. That's what made it good. You were nurturing the character. I was like, it's perfect. That was lovely.
This next question is a little bit more of a fun one, and I'll start with you, David. Is there a role that you don't want to play?
There is, yeah.
Please tell me about that.
I would never... never say never because there's always a different way to approach it. But I don't want to be a narco or a
you don't want to get stuck in that casting type?
The casting type, that's different. The conflict is different. It's a video game, it's a thriller, it's different.
Okay, yeah.
And I didn't have the revelation till after either. But I wouldn't want to be a narco or anything like that. Not for a casting type, because on my band, when I make it, it's gonna be because of a film that I did versus somebody else's. But it's because I feel like, looking at Netflix and you look at what's out there for roles available for like a Hispanic guy, primarily more so in the mainstream of things, it's those kinds of roles. And on our fault on it is partaking into the role that society's created for us, and that we're like the 21st century. We're like the 21st century Hollywood Native American. We're the fucking bad guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, that's not the case because, I didn't grow up like that. I grew up around it, but I wouldn't want to do that because I wouldn't, if there's a person who's similar to me, maybe it hasn't clicked to them, hasn't dawned to them that, you don't have to just accept anything that's given to you. If that could be like, I don't want to, you could play an art or actors, we could figure it out. But, that's not 95% of the Hispanic community. So I just wouldn't do that role just out of for me, just committing to
It's a
myself.
personal, moral thing.
Moral thing. I'm like, nah, we're above that.
That's
Yeah.
kind of what I was implying with like casting that. Like, you don't want to get stuck in like, in just one, you know, keeping kind of that stereotype perpetuated, but also
Yeah.
you're like, I don't want to get stuck in like, okay, well now people just see me as this like dirty cartel boss, and
Correct,
then those are the
yeah.
roles that you get, and those are the roles that, you know, you feel like people don't want to see you in something else because they're so used to seeing you
In
and
this
other
thing, yeah.
Latinos in this certain box.
Yeah.
And we do it well. So I mean, I can understand why, you know, they want to do it, but for mine, I'm like, well, let's live above that moral standard, you know, because we're not all like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right,
Just like,
right.
you
You
know-
can be the leading man. You don't have to be the villain. You know.
Exactly. And then if you're the villain, you could be a villain. Like if a role like the Joker ever came about, you could be a Hispanic actor doing it without having to go into any of those influences.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
So on my
yes.
perspective, it was just raising the standard of what our culture can create and do for itself. So
That's
I agree.
awesome.
that's why I wouldn't want to do that role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a role you really, really want to play?
I think, I don't know, I guess just in general, I just want to play bottom line, you know, complex, interesting, well-developed female characters, and, you know, those are kind of harder to come by, unfortunately. But in terms of like roles that already exist, you know, it's always been a dream of mine to be on Broadway, lifelong dream. And, you know, those are roles that you know, usually actors will play an existing role and cycle out different actors because the same shows will run for weeks or years or months. And so I would love to be in Waitress and play Jenna in Waitress. I love that show. That would be awesome. In terms of like film, I guess, kind of going off of what you're saying about always being the villain, that made me think I would love to play a villain one day. Like just in film, I think, I don't know, I on my YouTube channel, I play a lot of different characters, and most of them are like evil, or they have some kind of like an evil, like evil side. Maybe even if they start out good, they end up evil somehow. So I think those are a lot of fun, and yeah, like my channel is a lot more theatrical and kind of campy, but I would love to get the opportunity to play a villain, whether it's in like, you know, a superhero movie or even something more, you know, independent, kind of like, you know, I think those characters can be really interesting and more challenging to kind of, as an actor, you know, if you know that your character is bad or morally whatever, but you have to use your imagination to justify, no, like, I believe that this is the right choice, and like, I'm justified in feeling this way, and that must be a whole, you know, a big challenge. So I would look forward to taking that on.
What's the example of a complex person?
I think just female characters that have like nuance and aren't just so like one thing, or aren't there to just like kind of engage with like the male characters of like, oh, either to just be like kind of the pretty girl, or like, you know, you can be a pretty character, but like you got to have some more substance too, or else it's like boring to watch and boring to play. And unfortunately, like, I feel like I've gotten some of those roles before, and it's fine. It's, you know, I'm happy to work always, but you know, if I can like take on a character that like just gives me more challenge and more confliction, even of like, oh, makes me pause and like, how do I want to play this? If, you know, maybe female characters that aren't super immediately likable, you know, we always get that like, oh, I don't like this movie because the female protagonist was like unlikable or whatever. And it's like, well, we watch so many movies where the male protagonist is like unlikable, and that always kind of has been, and we just no one really seems to say anything about that. So why is it that when we have a morally kind of gray female character, or someone that's a little more interesting and human as a female, we're so quick to, as a society, just be like, oh, the whole thing is bad because I didn't like her. Well, maybe that's not the point. Maybe you're not supposed to like her. You know, because do you like every person you meet? No. And that's the whole thing. You're telling stories, you're being people. So, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool.
Well, I want to thank you both. We've come to the end of our interview, but before I send you off, I have one more question, okay? What's next for David Carbajal and Presley Weber? I guess we'll start with you, David. What's next? Where can we see you next?
See me next would be the Luxury Problems. It's in the, it's in the immediate future.
Is that a feature film or a short film?
No, it's a short film with
Yeah,
Keanu.
it's mine.
Nice.
We're doing a small one. We're playing New Yorkers.
Ooh.
Well, you're the New Yorker.
I'm excited to see.
I'm playing in New York.
This one's fun because I'm just a
Nice.
character. I get to just do character acting and just be a guy.
Yeah, it's
Nice.
funny because his character is complete opposite of Joey. Like Joey's, reserved, quiet. The guy he's playing is a little bit more flamboyant. I would say,
Yeah.
Flamboyant and-
Larger than life.
yeah, larger than life. And this is my first time ever donning a character ever on screen. So I'm gonna be
Hey,
playing
nice.
a New Yorker, and I get to beat this guy up for a little
Yeah.
bit. So it's gonna be fun.
Yeah. That's what's in
Oh,
the
I can't wait to
immediate
see
future.
that.
That's just what's in the immediate future. Everything
Mhm.
right now is in train, so it could be one project, it could be the next. It's just whatever we pull the trigger on.
Hmm.
I haven't decided which one I want to jump on yet. So
Well, whatever comes next, I'm sure we'll be watching.
Yeah.
What about you, Presley? What's next? Where can we see you?
Yeah, so I like I said, I'm wrapping in this week I'll be wrapping 2 of the feature films that I was working on this past year. And so hopefully those and the other 3 that I was in this past year get picked up for distribution sometime soon. One of them is called The Chip. I am the
Nice.
female
Wow.
lead in that, and one of them is Legend of El Chupacabra as well.
I'm
so
looking forward to that
yeah,
one. Yes.
I'm hoping they get distribution and it can be seen by people. And then also just continuing to work on my YouTube channels. You can find me on YouTube at Presley's World and Presley ASMR. Check it out. It might be a little,
Links will be in the description as well.
yeah. Even if it's not your thing, give a subscribe.
Yeah,
Support me. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in to Introducing David Carvajal and Presley Weber. Tune in next week where we'll be interviewing Kaylin Austin and Gabriel Carmona from Smile Not Cry Later. I was your host, Keanu Cordero. Everybody, have a good night.
Thank you for having us.
what if they see it in the morning?
And on the toilets in the morning, in the afternoon.
In the morning.